What's going on, people? How you doing? TK coming at you. Just want to hit you guys with perspective talk. And this perspective talk is in relation to trust. So what I want to explain to you is your personal perspective on trust is highly based in the fact that you've been conditioned to be lazy. In other words, most people trust a third party, someone else outside of their house, because they don't have personal responsibility for whatever it is that that third party is taking care of. The best example that can be used is the enslavement mechanism of debt and the system of pay to live. You know, you have to pay for everything that you want in life. Anything that you want to consume, you have to exchange for some sort of monetary value. So you trust a third party, somebody outside of your house, a central authority, someone with monopolistic control to basically manage your life. You trust that your checking and savings account is going to be there. You trust that your government is going to continuously provide printed money. And then you, in a competitive sense of acquisition, go out there and compete for access to that government printed money. So everyone is comfortable with their checking account, their savings account, their debit card, or their credit card. And they fight for access to more printed money in a accumulation phase or a competitive hoard phase where you want to isolate, control, manipulate so that you have more than everybody else. So this whole concept of third-party trust in this accumulation of paper or accumulation of money is what we buy into. It's what we all say, it's just the way it is. But I'm leading to the point that it's misplaced trust. And it's the apathy that you have for taking responsibility of your own financial situation or your own financial management that leads you into trouble, because time has proven and information has now come out that the monopolistic central authority, that third party that you trust, only make decisions to prevent it or to benefit and position them. And the more people go to sleep or the more people misplace their trust, it doesn't change the fact that that central authority only makes decisions to benefit them. See, in this competitive accumulation race for paper, every incentive to ensure your own position is the only market dynamics that people pay attention to. So there's no incentive within the monetary system for you to be honest, trustworthy, or even respectable. Because the game theory is get more than everybody else at any cost. So the central authority takes that same position. The central authority takes that same position in terms of ensuring their position over yours. But you don't realize it, don't care, as long as you can fight for the same access. So that historically has been the monetary paper game. It has been people with dominance and control that ensure their own position, and then everybody else, the rest of the poor people who fight for access and compete for that amount of market share. So the longest excuse that's ever been used for apathy is that, well, there's nothing else. And we're forced into this paradigm of paid access for everything we want in life, and there's nothing else. So we have to fight for money. We have to fight for access. We have to dominate and control everyone around us so that we have more than everybody in this lopsided scale of equality. But for whatever reason, 2008 exposed the nature of the lopsided decision making within the private mono-control authorities. So 2008 proved that the system was being mismanaged by the people who have the most power and the most money. Because anytime you have a fallout, it's a result of decisions before the fallout. So now, here it is, 2017 going on 2018. None of the decisions that led up to 2008 have changed. And people still trust somebody outside of their house to manage their financial situation. Everyone has been conditioned to trust a third party, right? But the system has proved that it can't be trusted because there's no incentive within the monetary system to be honest. The game theory is to isolate, control, and monopolize as much for yourself. So there is no moral compass in modern economics or modern business or modern consumerism. Everyone's incentive is to isolate and control and dominate over everyone else. But the problem is that system is inherently flawed and will constantly lead to more 2008s. Because of the lopsided competition and hoarding, you're always going to have an unequal scale that will show repercussions in the broad economy as a whole. That's all 2008 was. It was a repercussion of previous decision making that led up to it. So if you don't change the decision making, you don't change the lopsided scale, guess what? You're gonna have a bigger avalanche later on. The snowball just gets bigger. So that leads me into the concept of alternatives, because the lazy excuse from the average dumbass that trusts paper money and trusts their bank account, they trust their credit card, the excuse is, well, there's nothing else. So let me show you alternatives. Alternative number one historically has always been gold, because as a commodity, gold has a perceived intrinsic value. So does silver. So historically, people have used money, or I should say used precious metals as a form of money because of the perceived intrinsic value through limited access, scarcity, and that is a physical alternative to credit or fiat paper money. So if you accumulate gold and silver and you go to a banking system, typically the banking system will exchange that gold and silver for paper money or for credit money, because they perceive an intrinsic value in that gold and silver. Now, after 2008, when the monetary system crashed, or when the economic system came close to crashing, in 2009, a electronic substitute for money was born, which is called Bitcoin, or cryptocurrency. Now, that's the information or the lack of information that people have when it comes to Bitcoin is why they don't participate, because they feel like, well, is Bitcoin a store of value? And is Bitcoin something that can be exchanged for goods and services? Those are the only two reasons that people use anything for money. It's either a good and service. It's either exchange for a good and service, or it's a store of value. And the informational curve, your inability to understand what Bitcoin is the reason why you don't use it. But it is a store of value, and it is exchangeable for goods and services. Now, in terms of being exchanged for whatever you want to buy, there's an incentive. There's a monetary incentive for merchants because it's cheaper. So a merchant that accepts Bitcoin doesn't have to pay upwards of 6% to Visa. Sometimes it's 1%, sometimes it's 0% if they switch to accepting Bitcoin. So there's a monetary incentive for a merchant to actually lower their overhead by paying minimal to no expenses on that sale, that transaction fee. But what's the incentive for the average dumbass that trusts Visa and that trusts their bank account? Oh, I got my paper money, I don't need Bitcoin. Well, I'm here to tell you that the incentive for the smart consumer, for the early adopter, for the visionary that understands that the advancement of money is now transferring trust to yourself. That's the advantage of Bitcoin. And once you step into Bitcoin, you are taking personal responsibility for your financial management. You're no longer trusting a third party to bend you over, make decisions behind closed doors. You are making your own decision to own, manage, and control a physical, or I should say, a electronic asset. So the issue in Bitcoin that incentivizes you to participate, if you have the brain power to understand it, and most people don't, and that's why they don't use it. But the incentive is a higher purchasing power, a store of value long term, and the fact that the fluctuation in price is a market discovery that actually benefits you in terms of reward. So everybody talks about the volatility in Bitcoin and the price fluctuation, and not understanding that long term, that price fluctuation rewards you for your participation. So in terms of its gain and physical value asset, you get rewarded for participating long term. Example, if you would have bought Bitcoin in 2009 when it was $100, right? And you held it long term today, that $100 worth of Bitcoin would be worth $1 million. So you are rewarded long term for holding this electronic asset. You're taking personal responsibility because of the fact that you own, manage, and control something that has no third party, has no central authority behind it. And then finally, Bitcoin gives you the individual power to purchase at a greater level. In other words, a high value Bitcoin means less Bitcoin comes out of your wallet when you spend it for exchange. So you gain purchase power in the increase in value over the long-term hold. So what does that mean? That means that one Bitcoin could buy more than $1. You have a greater purchasing power. So it's financially smarter for somebody to say, well, I got my paper, I got my credit, I got my bank account, but I also have Bitcoin because I realize that long term it's going to be worth more than the paper, the credit, my bank account, because my Bitcoin account will surpass my bank account in long term value increase or appreciation. So that's what people have to open their mind to. And the average person has been conditioned lazy where they're not fucking smart enough to understand any of the market dynamics I just explained. So you don't have the financial patience to overcome the informational curve associated with storing and holding your Bitcoin. You don't have that ability, so you trust a bank to store and hold your money. Even though a bank has proven through game theory and individual competition that they're not going to do anything in your benefit, they're going to do shit in their own fucking benefit, because that's how paper money or the monetary system within fiat works. So you're incentivized and rewarded for participation in Bitcoin over the long-term hold because of the fact that it increases in value over time, and it's a trustless transaction. Why is Bitcoin trustless? Because mathematics is the verification through an open ledger, and if 2 plus 2 don't equal 4, then it doesn't get added to the ledger. Whereas with your trust in your bank account, they can edit the ledger at any given time. And most of the time they edit the ledger to their benefit, i.e. all of the trouble that Bank of America has been in terms of cheating people. So what I'm suggesting to you is that you stop trusting third parties. You take personal responsibility for your own financial management. You do smart economics in terms of positioning yourself in a appreciating asset that gains value over time. You be smart enough to make your money actually work for you, where you position yourself in something that will put money back into your house. Stop fucking concentrating on consumables that are negative liabilities, only take money out of your house, never give you shit back. You don't get nothing back from those Jordans. The last thing I want to do is put somebody used fucking shoes on my feet. And I don't give a fuck if it's Jordans or a pair of Versace shoes. The last thing I'm interested in is putting somebody's no hygiene, no bath taking, fungus shoes on my feet. So of course all of this is just a suggestion to you. And for those people who are economically smart, you will be rewarded in the future.